from your experience about how you were in school and talking about how people call you Apu Nenek and stuff, right? Like, my opinion on that, right, is just that I think it's because like people, like why they came up to you, from what I think lah, with how we are right now, right? I think everyone is so comfortable with like calling each other names, and especially when it comes to first impressions as well. And like I've had people, like I've had Indian friends who were in secondary school, right? Like first time meeting, they'll be like, "Hey, Apu Nenek," like, "Hey, Tambi," like that. Like first time meeting, and I'm just there like, like I think from there onwards, that's how it became to go like such a comfortable environment. So the thing is like, when it continues on like that, I think the habit just goes on. But like what they did to you like doesn't justify anything lah. But it's still like them being like, oh, like I'm just very comfortable because other people have done it. Other people have done it, I will do it as well. But I think like what your friends did, like, or as soon as they got to know you, like and they stopped calling you that, I think that was a really respectable thing for them to do. I've had people just go like calling like each other like names like that.
When they approach a Malay person, is there an equivalent to the Apu Nenek thing for Malays in your school?
Oh, I have had friends who call me Mina. Because
not your name, it's just a label that they stick to you.
Oh yeah, so okay, cause for Malays, right, first impression they give off, right, sometimes they look like, oh, like they don't look like they want to talk to anyone at all. But like sometimes it's just their face. So when they see a person like that, right, they'll just be like, hey, you know that person over there, right, sitting over there, look like Mina, I don't want to talk to her. Like, it's very like sad, because maybe like what if I've had people who want to become friends with me, but I want to become friends with them as well, but they couldn't come up to me because I look like a Mina, I look like a female gangster. Then I'm just there like, oh shit, like what if there's people who wanted to talk to me but they couldn't because I look like this?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing that thing about your opinion about going to the next phase of this conversation about why you think it happened, about it because they're feeling so comfortable, right? So maybe the thing I'll just plant for now, and then but then I'll actually ask Matthew first for a story. Is comfortable for who, right? Is this comfortable for the person saying it, and then is it comfortable for the person receiving it? You know, if it was an Apu Nenek, or for, like you say, they are comfortable, they call Mina, and then, you know, was it just as comfortable for you, or is it only for the person who's saying it? So, and then so we'll explore it a bit later, and then we'll explore some other consequences of how we respond to that kind of thing, and also the consequences of the bystanders who actually hear that, and how do they take away some of the lessons based on what kind of responses was received. But we'll just hang on to that thought. Matthew.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, I really want to first be very upfront to say that as a person, maybe as a Chinese person, I actually experienced very, very little of, you know, the kind of stories that you all are actually saying. I mean, I've heard my friends tell me, but I honestly, like when you invited me, I really had to think hard for stories. And even then, the experiences of discrimination I had was when I was mistaken to be not Chinese. So my story actually is similar to yours in the sense that it relates to how people stereotype particular races based on their looks to a certain, you know, profession or school. So for me, what happened was, there was one day I was accompanying a friend to the market, and she was buying plants, live plants with pots and, you know, fairly heavy things. And so after she made her purchase and she was carrying the plants, you know, all the pots and quite heavy, the auntie selling it actually turned to her and spoke in Chinese. So the auntie the seller, totally ignored me. I was next to her, but she totally ignored me. She just spoke to my friend in Chinese. But I understand Chinese. She thought I didn't understand. So she told my friend, oh, why are you carrying everything? You should just let her carry it. And my friend was very puzzled, because you don't treat your friends that way. But because I have often been mistaken to be Filipino maid, Indonesian maid, I was quite used to it, and I was already sort of like primed for it. So immediately I spoke back to her in Chinese, and I say, oh, how come I'm carrying it? You know, she's my friend, she should be caring for me. And I could see on her face, oh dear, oh no, I've offended her.
My mother, like herself, right, a lot of my friends have mistaken her as a Chinese because she's very, like, a lot more fairer than me. So I'm just there like, no, she's not, she's Malay as well. and they went like, oh, really? She's Malay? I don't believe. Then I was like, she's Malay. Yeah. And then after that, they were like, oh, how come you're a lot more darker than her? Then I'm just there like, I didn't know what to feel from that, because I was like, I didn't know how to respond in that way, because I don't know whether they forgot about my father or they forgot about the fact that I could have taken my genes from my father. But I was just there like, I didn't know how to respond in a way. Like, for a while I felt hurt. Then I was just like there was like a moment of silence. I really didn't know how to respond to that. They were just like, yeah, that's my question, like how is your mother like a lot more fairer than you? Like they would even think that, oh, like she isn't my mother. Like till now I still didn't know how to respond to that.
So there are a couple of things I want to just put over here for us to have a look at. Number one was the connection with ethnicity, right? So if you look like a certain ethnicity, then and then so what, right? But then you're saying that a certain ethnicity, for example, in your experience, Malay is seen as not so academic, not so intelligent, right? So it's not just the fact that I'm mistaking you for Malay. I'm actually thinking that you are not so intelligent and you are not so academic. Maybe like you say, maybe I don't know, not so hardworking. Is that is what we're looking at as well. And then now you've added another layer to say that if you are dark skinned, our standards of beauty in Singapore is such that dark skinned people somehow are not as attractive. And I'm paraphrasing it. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe dark-skinned people are not as attractive as fair-skinned people, so I care for you, therefore here's some whitening cream. So maybe you can look a bit more attractive if you use this. Am I saying something that's hitting something enough here? Anybody wants to comment or respond to that?
I think amongst women that is very, very common. Yeah, that appeal to skin whitening products, and perhaps these days with a lot of like East Asian, J-pop, K-pop and all, that is being exacerbated in that sense, that to be fair is to be beautiful, and people, yes, I think that especially your relatives or friends will say, oh yeah, you shouldn't go into the sun more often, you should use skin whitening products more often, you need to look fairer. So I think there's definitely that. But I also think that maybe there's more and more awareness that isn't true. I see a kickback these days as well with perhaps like my Chinese friends who would, and myself included, we would do sports in the sun and like, so what, so what, and we're not gonna, and we laugh at people who cover themselves, 99% all covered, wear big hats, and you're going out into the sun to walk, and we'll be laughing at such people as, oh, I think you're a bit crazy in this weather, why do you do that just for that whitening? So I've heard both. I think there's that pushback as well as people who still associate.
Thanks. And I'm also concerned because in schools, and not just in schools, if skin color affects the way I see myself, then if I see myself as not attractive, then it affects my self-esteem, it affects my self-confidence, it affects my self-image, then it affects my ability to actually concentrate and focus on studies maybe, because I'm thinking I'm a less worthy person than somebody who's a bit more attractive. Therefore, it all adds up together, and then it could go into depression, it could go into mental health, it could go into so many things like that, right? Because it's body image. And we're only touching color here, we haven't touched, body size, we haven't touched, body, hair, that kind of thing. So that those are areas in which if a young woman or young man is just struggling with self-esteem, this kind of piles on, and I'm not sure if that sort of resonates with some of your experience as well, with young people growing up and wanting to be accepted and wanting to be seen as desirable, and therefore, if I'm black, can I be beautiful? If I'm dark skinned, if I'm dark brown, can I be beautiful? If I look at the models, do I see it out there? Or the models only choose a certain type of body, a certain type of color, and if I don't fall into that, maybe I'm not desirable.
I think just to add on to color, which is very exciting. You see, for males, usually national service, we have to serve. I think so. When I wanted to serve national service with pride, we take the oath. We are all equal, all the races. The first day when I step in, my whole bunk, I'm the only Indian. One guy from the right at the corner shouting at me, "Hey, Kilengkia, come here." So Kilengkia is another derogatory remark. I don't know why I have all these derogatory in my life, but he forms an experience. What it means is basically, Kilengkia means people from India came to work here. They were chained here. These people are basically South Indians, darker. So from
You
that,
say chained.
yeah,
Okay.
chained in a railway. I think they came. I think they were like servants or prisoners or something like that to work here in Singapore. Yes, serving the sentence. So the Kelengia word actually comes from the fact when they are walking, right, there's a cling sound. What actually happened when I joined National Service, there was this guy who could, and 18 years old, blood gush, hey, why are you calling me this? So I went to fight with him. So I went to ask him, why you call me that? And he said, I don't know, Lee. He said, my friends actually call Indians like that, Kelengia. And just because I'm dark, because he was talking about the color, they associate me like that. And that was another derogatory thing that I had to live for, at least for the first 3 months, to really change their mindset. Because at the time when I was 18, figuring out, and then they have this notion, because you are a person who's dark, who can work, chained and work and all. So anything you do with running, right, they'll ask me to run. Indians are good running. You all are Kelengia, very good.
That's
good
another
run.
stereotype.
Yeah, that's another stereotype. So this was a struggling. So again, like what I shared earlier, a few months it took for me to, we are good friends now. But at that point of time, right, again, these remarks actually shared that they had this perception that the moment you're dark skinned, again, you're not so smart, you can run, but you can't do creative things. And then you cannot lead. That's their thought. When you say something, right, they will be like putting you down, saying that, yeah, good idea, but we follow this. So your ideas will never be accepted, even in national service.
What are some of the reasons you think these things happen in Singapore? What's your opinion? What's your theory? What's your hypothesis? Have you got a thought? Why do people treat each other like this? Whatever this might mean to you. I remember as a young kid growing up, when my neighbor, he's about the same age, but his grandmother was saying he wasn't eating his porridge, and he says that, oh, if you don't eat your porridge, you see that Bengali is going to catch you, and then sometimes he'll say, you see that dark man, will come and catch you. Sometimes he'll say that Apunanai will come and catch you. Different words, but they all revolve around the dark, dangerous person that's going to come and catch you. You're nodding your head. So you've had these experiences before?
Yeah. So throughout, I've also my parents' friends also said that they have seen this. Their friends' parents and all that doing that, or doing that in front of the kids, and then the kids just pick it up and then they just roll on with it.
They don't understand what it is.
And they don't understand what it is, but if the parents doing it, means it must be okay.
Yeah.
And then the kids just follow along with that.
Yeah.
And that happens quite frequently now, especially now with social media, right? Everyone's doing Instagram, TikToks and all that. That's how they perpetrate this myth.
So I come from a Chinese family, so I wanted to also echo your, what you've heard, but from the inside story, so to speak. So when I was growing up, my grandmother has already passed on, but when I grew up together with her, what I learned from her is that when she speaks about people from the country of India, she will use the term Eng To Nang, which is I guess a phonetic translation of Indian person. But when she refers to a person of Singaporean nationality but of Indian nationality, then she will use the term Kileng Nang, and she didn't use it in a derogatory way. She used it as that was, so as I grew up, I thought that was the Teochew terms for what an Indian nationality would be and what a local Indian would be called. And I didn't know until I grew up and heard stories from people like yourself. Then I realized, oh, that's not a term that is a good term to use. But as I grew up with her, that was what I learned. And I think because she could only speak Teochew and a little bit of Mandarin, she never had the chance to actually hear from people of Indian ethnicity that they didn't like hearing this. So I think she learned it from her friends and perhaps even her parents, and she taught it down to her children in a non-derogatory way. But that was what we essentially learned as I was growing up.